Howdy y'all, you got the Bulldog on the channel. This is a video here of two different vehicles, different clips that I have put together, and one of them doesn't have an outcome yet, one of them does. The one that does is one of them that it really shouldn't. It is a vehicle that should be put down, but it's cheaper to fix it than it is to get another one. And I think it'll still last him out his price of the repair and longer. The other one, big question mark on it. Customer's making a decision on that as we speak. So bear with me through this. It's kind of a long video, but hopefully you'll see my thought process, and hopefully I explain everything as well as I can. This one here is a video series that I started quite some time ago, and I've got probably an hour and a half of footage on this thing, and I just couldn't get anywhere with it. It's a little EcoBoost 1.6, I think. I'm pretty sure that the computer is out, but this particular vehicle, I am advising the customer not to fix it. It's a nice, straight vehicle. Interior's in decent shape. The engine seems okay, but there are problems. There are serious problems. The turbo, the wastegate in the turbo, well, I'll show you in a clip that I have in here. The flapper valve that is the wastegate came loose from the turbo, went into the exhaust, and went through the catalytic converter. So you buy a turbo, and it's, big money, and then you have to buy a catalytic converter, which is big money, and then you got installation and all that. You're looking at $2,500, $3,000 by the time you're done with that part. It was also running horribly. That is actually the reason it came in. They didn't even notice that it was just down on power in general. When it ran good, it didn't run good. It just, well, that was two of the injectors just quitting. Injectors 2 and 3. Now, that code set repeatedly. Sometimes it would run perfect, and then sometimes, or idle run perfect. Wouldn't have any power because turbo's shot. But it would idle, and then it wouldn't. It would just blip, 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 because it's only running on half its cylinders. Cylinder 1 and cylinder 4 ran fine. Cylinder 2 and 3 did not, and it had circuit codes in the computer for the injectors. It came in here, it was missing. I unplugged the computer and measured the resistance of the injectors across the engine, and they all measured the same, 1.5 ohms. And then I plugged the computer back in and started it up, and it ran perfect. And it has run fine ever since. It's two different injectors. They don't use any common wires. The only place they meet is inside the computer for the driver that fires the injectors. I wiggled around on wiring. I wiggled around on the computer plug. I could not make it fail again. That is close to $1,000 repair or around. So now you're looking at $4,000, if that's what it is. I pulled the dipstick, and it only had 1.5 quarts of oil in it. I poured a quart of oil in and checked it, and there's still no oil in the stick. So I poured another quart in and checked it, and there's still no oil in the stick. And I poured another quart in and checked it, and it checked on the stick then. And antifreeze bottle, empty. No visible leaks. The oil could be the turbo, but I didn't see any oil in the exhaust. So the engine is drinking oil. It is obviously drinking antifreeze somewhere. How far do you go? Yes, it's a nice vehicle. Is it worth fixing? Maybe. But you can't know until after you've started spending a lot of money.
You're going to be $4,000 into this, and you still don't know if the engine's any good because it doesn't run good enough to really test it out. So we're advising the customer not to fix this. It's a shame. And of course, the ultimate decision is up to them. But we're at a point now where I can't say one way or another whether it's worth fixing or not. Howdy, y'all. Got the Bulldog on the channel.
It simply means that something is off. Another one is
What we got here, I think it's a 2009 Ford Edge. And it's got some issues, and we're hoping that it's salvageable. Problem it had, it just running terrible. It idled okay, but then you start step on it and it just start cutting up and running horrible. And it's a turbo. Somebody, ooh, wow. Somebody looked at it and they said they saw metal shavings in the oil return line to the turbo. I don't know if that is correct, but the battery went completely dead. I mean, it was flat because it didn't drive it for a month, but the battery is bad too, and the connections are terrible. And I just walked in here and clicked on it, and yeah, we got a lot of codes. And they scroll, and they just keep going and 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 going. Let's clear all these codes because we don't even know. All right, those are all the things. This is what I'm kind of looking at. You know, circuit open on the injector, circuit open on the injector. Yeah, I know you're a touch screen and I bumped you back. But I'm looking at these injector codes. That's a circuit. It means either they've been unplugged or the wire's chewed in two, something like that. Thermostat. That usually means the thermostat's stuck open and it won't come up to temperature. Turbocharger underboost. On these little EcoBoost engines, the little 4 cylinders, I've seen the turbos going bad, the wastegate falls off of them and is laying inside the exhaust pipe somewhere. Random misfire, cylinder misfire 2 and 3. That will cause the problem of it running bad. But we don't know for sure. Ignition coil D, primary control circuit open. That's an electronic problem with the coil. But maybe had the key on when it was unplugged or something like that. Or somebody unplugged it while it was running, checking for a misfire. All kinds of different things. You can't go anywhere with this amount of information because you don't know what's real and what's not. Everything is an unproven situation. So we're going to go back here and we're going to clear all these codes. That clears them out. I'm going to back up to my title screen and clear all the codes in every system. And I'm going to fire it up and drive it around a little bit in the lot and see if anything resets. You know, because the key on engine off test revealed no codes except for the AC, which is normal because it's probably turned on and not functioning because the engine's not running. I'm gonna go make a loop and see if anything comes back. I can step on it pretty hard. We've got a pretty big parking lot out there, but I can't get it up to 50, which is fine. You don't need to get it up to 50 usually. We're right on the highway, but there is a turnaround down here where there's a county road. There's a turnaround up there where there's a county road. So we're never out of eye shot of the shop here. So when we got something that's really bad, we can just make loops. That way, you know, we don't get very far away and it's not as far to pull it whenever it dies. Okay, he's gonna go out and put some load on it. We're gonna watch the values and see if they change. Under test drive, this thing had no boost at all. Well, the wastegate is changing the percentage. That's changing. Now this wastegate absolute pressure sensor, you think that's the substitute
that's
for the
what-
map sensor?
I think that's what it's supposed to be.
All right, try that again and see if it budges. It moves a freckle. Well, it went to a 5, so I don't know. I'll have to do a little bit of homework on it and see what all we come up with. In the past, we've found the wastegate laying in the exhaust pipe. Nothing else is coming up. No misfires, nothing. So we'll see what we find. Okay,
Yeah, there it is.
I pulled the exhaust off of this so we could get in here with a borescope and look at the wastegate, and guess what we're not finding? We are not finding the flapper for the wastegate. It is missing. That's just the lever actuator. It's got a hole in it. Now, here's another wrinkle in our little deal. Here's one that's intact. This is the old turbo off of a 6.7 that we worked on. And this piece floats around in here, and that piece likes to pop out, and it appears on that edge down there. It went through the catalytic converter because I stuck my borescope all the way into that hole that as far as I could reach, and it's, yeah, not good. Okay, much time has passed. Life. We finally got back on this Ford Edge with the turbo problem, which caused the catalytic converter problem, but it also has fuel injector issues, we think. Okay. Now, internet came back up, so we got our information. And all right, number 4 injectors at 1.5 ohms. That one's at 1.5 ohms. Now we'll check number 3, 1.5 ohms, and that's 1.5 ohms. So all of our resistances match perfectly on the injectors. Trouble is, it only really gave the trouble when it was cold, and it's warm in here. Anyway, I'm gonna plug this back in. We'll take it back outside and let it set for a little while, get cold again. And then I'll unplug it out there and redo the test now that I've got my information. I'm gonna attempt to test these injectors while they're completely cold. .5, 76, 1.5, 1.5, 1.5. They all measure 1.5 ohms exactly. That's as far as I went on that one because it would not fail after that. After I measured all those injectors, I had disturbed the computer plug. It would not fail. And like I said, customers kind of on the fence about it, whether or not to fix it. We don't know the condition of the motor. We know that it was abused. Not his fault. It was very low on oil, very low on antifreeze too. Those things did have an issue with cracks in the block that was a recall. So I got to see if it was under that campaign or not. I can't in good conscience tell the customer, yes, go ahead and fix it. Because we might end up putting a turbo on it and a catalytic converter and a computer, and he still ends up with a problem later because it is using oil somewhere. It is leaking antifreeze somewhere or using it. I just don't know. Howdy y'all, you got the Bulldog on the channel. We're back down here at the main shop, and this vehicle here, I don't think I filmed any on it on the drivability concerns, but it had, thought coils were blown up again. We put all 6 coils on it here a few years ago, and it had 3 coils out all of a sudden. Well, it didn't have 3 coils out. It had the coil driver out of the computer. Now, some of the computers, they won't even have a warranty on them unless you replace all the coils, because I guess that's what blows them all up. This is the second one we've had to replace, and we've got another one here that we might have to replace the computer on because the injectors are having the same trouble. It's got 2 injectors failing at the same time on a 4-cylinder, so it's usually batched. But this here, we got the drivability concern taken care of, but we've got a horrible noise. He said it's got a horrible howl to it in the rear, and he had put a wheel bearing on the front here a few years ago. He knew what the sound was. He says probably gonna be a wheel bearing, and can we check it out after we get it running right? Yeah, it's loud. Now, it's got some brake noise there, but we picked it up off the ground a little bit, and I got underneath with the creeper, and my boss ran it, and with a stethoscope, you can definitely tell this is the wheel bearing that is out. You always want to check them with a stethoscope. You don't want to just try it by ear, because here's something about drive lines that some people don't know. That shaft right there goes up and then goes over to the other wheel. I have seen before where one wheel has got a bad bearing and you can hear it coming out of the other side. So don't try to wing it. You can use just a screwdriver and put it up against your ear. You know, fold this flap on your ear into the hole and put that screwdriver right against it. There's some deaf people that can hear like that, because that will transmit right into your head, and you can hear things without the rest of the world causing problems. I did this with a stethoscope, and comparing it to the other side, we know the problem's over here. It's not brakes that I hear, it is the bearing howling. So we're going to get into this. This is a press-on bearing. I've done one on my own before. We don't like working on this vehicle because he needs to be looking for another one. Unfortunately, in this climate, it's kind of difficult to do that. He keeps spending money. Yeah. Framework around that is still good. The unibody where the tin is all against it, it's not great at all. He started looking and the prices were high, so he just, I'll wait for the market to cool down. And then the price got higher, and higher, and it ain't coming back down. So it's gonna have to make this last another year or two. Okay, now this one here, it's been a while since I did one. I've done my own. You have to take this whole thing off because it's pressed in here. Now they have a hub master that's supposed to be able to press these things out. We don't have one. I don't know if we're gonna get one or not, but I just see so many of them that it wouldn't help. Now this e-brake cable is almost fused. So that's going to make it kind of interesting to get this out. Now these brakes are not fused. It wiggles a little bit. But you got to pull this back and unhook it here. And we'll unhook this and pull it out of the hole until the cable can go through this little slot. That gets that out of the way. We'll pull the caliper, nut, rotor. ABS sensor probably will not come out, so we'll end up taking the line off that goes inside. There's a hole already. Yeah, that just fell out. So most of the time you gotta try to take these things out, they break. So we're gonna just not mess with it. Tone ring on the axle is what triggers this, so once you get the axle out of there, there's nothing that's going to hit this. You got to be careful though when you're pressing in a new bearing or taking the old bearing out. Ball joint right here, and a ball joint right here, shock mount. So it's rather involved taking this thing off. It's not huge, but involved. What I always do is I get our transmission jack and roll it underneath there, right here. Get the arms loose, get the shock loose, and then put the deal underneath here and jack it up to where this will still come off. Maybe jack it up just a little bit so I can get this knocked off of there. Sometimes I have had to take this bolt out and get this out of the hole so that I can get everything loose. But like I say, it's been a while. I'll have to remember how I did it. I'll show you here in a little bit.
Now, it was at this point that I stopped filming because we thought, well, we'll put the camera aside and we'll go ahead and do this. We tag teamed it, got it apart, but I didn't get any of it filmed. And then by the time I was putting it back together, it was a different day. And I really wasn't in the mood for filming. But anyway, we got that one done, all complete. I did talk to the customer on that other one. He's on the fence, and he's taking the weekend to, actually the entire week between Christmas and New Year's, to decide what he's going to do.
Now these are the situations we get put into where people are asking for advice, and we just don't, we're human. I mean, we're not exactly equipped to answer those questions because we can't see the future. We can predict, but we're going to be wrong sometimes. And there's certain times when the customer is not going to like our answer. And we've run into situations before where we give our advice. Say, do this, or don't do this. Do not do this. And they go ahead and do it, and it blows up in their face. And they're angry because it blew up in their face, but if we're lucky, they understand that I told them that was going to happen. So I'm not trying to complain. I'm just putting this out there that there's a thought process that goes into the decisions we make. Oftentimes the customer will question that. You know, well, why? Why do we have to do this? Why are you saying this? Trying to explain, you know, this is years of experience going into this decision. This is not just us not wanting to do something. We've already gone through that. Most big repairs we don't want to do. We like the smaller jobs, the easier jobs. But, you know, it is what it is. It's still part of the job. You do it. Much like this Escape here, it's going to be a nightmare. And you're looking at the easiest possible bad way to do it. So I just wanted to, you know, present these two cases, and you've seen some of the footage, you know, one way and the other as to why. These are stressful decisions for us too. We have a lot of invested interest in it. We don't want a vehicle that is going to continually cost you money and continually be in our shop with something else wrong. So we don't have a financial interest in telling you to keep a lemon
we have a financial interest in you having a good, repairable vehicle that will give you years of cost-effective service. We provide the service. It does not put us money ahead for you to spend $80,000 on a new vehicle that's going to be junk in 5 years because the one you already have is 5 years old. Yeah, it needs $5,000 worth of work, but after you spend that, see, it's paid off now. After you spend that, you get another 5 years out of it. And if you buy the $80,000 one, you only get 5 years out of it. Sometimes 10. You notice cars aren't lasting as long as they used to when they should last longer. That's why. Those are my opinions, of course, but they're educated opinions, educated by experience. Like, comment, subscribe, hit your little bell notification, share it all around. We'll talk to you later.